We are live.
Good morning and welcome again to the third day of the First African Diaspora Symposium, come 7th annual Kenya Diaspora Homecoming Convention that has been going on at Ole Sereni. It's a hybrid and also virtual. My name is Rosemary Musumba. I'm in New York right at this moment, which is going to about 2 a.m. But I'm honored to moderate this session for two reasons. Being involved with the diaspora issues and also the powerful and very interesting speakers that, I have the honor of hosting today. Without much ado, let me introduce my good friend, a wonderful human being, Prince Lekan Fadina.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, Prince Lekan and I were in the planning committee, so we spent a lot of time planning and supporting. But he's just a person who has a lot of wealth of experience. And let me probably give you just a quick snapshot of some of the things that Prince Lekan has been able to do. He is an economist, he's a scholar, he's a management consultant involved in environment, he's a certified knowledge practitioner, he's also a certified auctioneer, stockbroker, investment advisor, investment banker, development expert. I could go on and on and on. He spent about 2 decades working with the UN system in the areas of trade, environment, climate change, and sustainable development. But the most important thing is that he is committed in making his voice heard and ensuring that Africa gets a seat at the table, whether it is the G8 or whatever meeting is happening. I want to welcome you, Prince Fadina.
Thank you very much.
Yes, and allow me also to introduce, as we talk of the old or middle-aged, we also talk about the youth.
They are the future.
And yes, they are the future. We are handing the baton to them. And that gives me a lot of pleasure to introduce Jean-Paul Tumusifu, who is from Rwanda. And John Paul is a graduate of the International Leadership University. He has experience in business operations and management and has worked across 3 continents, in Europe, in Asia, in Africa. He loves walking around and solving problems and turning ideas into actions.
Hello.
During his free time, he reads books and watches crime and psychological thriller movies. That is Jean-Paul Tumusifu. Last but not least is my sister, somebody we revere, we admire, we follow in her footsteps. If it wasn't for her, there would be no internet in Africa. She made sure that we had internet, mobilized young men and women, and made sure has broken barriers to ensure that we have internet. This is Madame Ibokon Odushote. Welcome.
Okay. Thank you.
And Madame Odushote is just the past PS in the Federal Republic of Nigeria. I'm really honored to have these great speakers. Let me start off with the ladies. Madame Odushote, if you're ready, please share with us your thoughts as we discuss about diaspora affairs.
Thank you very much. This has been quite challenging because I really didn't know that I could have it so rough. But what I'll be sharing is harnessing the power of the diaspora for technology and human resourcing in the post-COVID-19 lockdown era. I have an agenda, an introduction, the diaspora and technology advances, COVID-19 realities, repositioning digital technology for the unfolding future, why technology and human resourcing for post-COVID-19 lockdown success, harnessing the power of the diaspora in technology, and harnessing the power of the diaspora in human resourcing. I would, as an introduction, we have observed that the contributions of the diaspora to national economies in Africa have received increasing attention in recent years, revealing sources of potential national economic power that have been long discountenanced or obviously understated. Global remittances to sub-Saharan Africa grew by 10% to $46 billion in 2018, is a World Bank press release, April 2019. Nigeria diaspora remittances in 4 consecutive years before 2019 exceeded oil revenues and reached $25 billion in 2018. Is also a report by PwC. Remittances to the Middle East and North Africa grew 9% to $62 billion in 2018. The growth was driven by Egypt's rapid remittance growth of around 17%. It should be argued that the place of the diaspora is not only in the remittance of funds to home countries. There had been identifiable interest in engagement, in investment in different forms of people in the diaspora. The bias of this presentation is to seek how to maximize the contributions of the diaspora in the use of technology and human resources for the goals of development in African nations. If you see this young man is a Ghanaian, a teacher teaching computer science, and he had to develop the picture of a computer. They are teaching people about computers. They don't have computers. So he just builds the screen all by himself, and then he will be using that to teach the children. But it became obvious. And many people, it was seen internationally, Microsoft Africa and some other people decided to come in to give support to the school, and they were given computers because of the efforts of this young man. The diaspora and technology advances in the past, that's before COVID-19, in the 70s to the 80s, we were buying desktops, if you remember. Experts started to emerge in Nigeria with partnership with diasporas. New trade in computers and software started. I know so much that we had to do during those years in Nigeria. In the 90s, internet development and country code top-level domain registration in 1995. Nigerians in diaspora helped to achieve internet penetration. They helped us to move from dial-up to mobile communication. I remember for the pioneers, for the internet pioneers in Africa, we worked so much with our diaspora. We worked so much with Nigerians in diaspora to be able to achieve a lot of things that we did. And we are still working with them even up to now. The 2000, if you remember, the Millennium Bug, yeah. Nigerian digital technology experts abroad helped us to manage the situation of the Millennium Bug better due to the experience and the insights that they contributed. Another area in which the diaspora has been engaged is the development of general digital technology infrastructure, electricity. Nigeria Digital Economy Diagnostic Report, part of the World Bank's Digital Economy for Africa Diagnostic Report, showed that the 5 pillars for digital transformation are infrastructure, platforms, financial services, entrepreneurship, and skills. The report noted that in the Nigerian case, the infrastructure and support system are rapidly expanding, but they are concentrated in the big cities, are driven by donors and diaspora efforts, and lack coordination mechanisms that would allow firms to build a pipeline of digital ventures across all groups. COVID-19 realities and the demand for appropriate digital technology responses. When we were saying so much about utilizing technology, communicating, this conference, for example, in the past, will have like maybe 5,000 people coming from all over the world, and everybody gathering together. So much money will be spent. But here we are. Even when some of us are here in Kenya, we are making presentations using technology. Emergency and disaster management, disruptions of almost all our endeavors. Reality came on us that it's not the way we used to do things, that we will continue to do them. New digital tools, a rise for global collaboration. Virtual meetings and communications became the order of the day, and the new investment opportunities. Of course, people are now going to be putting money into data storage, cloud computing, different kinds of things. And then, of course, cybersecurity, social media. Social media where you have fake news or you have true news. Fintech and payments. So repositioning digital technology for the unfolding future, embracing the new normal, because that's a reality. How can workplaces continue to pursue effective strategic objectives that will ensure the continuing improvement of their workforce? Those are the concerns that are being brought to the fore. How can we achieve organizational goals? How can people in their communities stay together safely to satisfy their human needs for touch and emotional satisfaction while they escape the dangers of COVID-19? Connectivity, a new currency. That's a part of our lives now that we can't run away from. African acceptability of the new normal. If you, this picture that I have there, Stripe acquires Nigeria's Paystack for over $200 million to expand its footprint in Africa. I wish they are part of my family so that I can get to reach quick. Why technology and human resourcing for post-COVID-19 lockdown success? The World Bank's 5-pillar approach. The first thing is digital infrastructure, major need for Africa. We have a challenge with infrastructure. We still have issues with electricity. Electricity is still being cut off, is still being on and off. Hello?
Yes.
Okay, then digital platforms. Sorry?
No, continue, no problem. There's no interference.
Harnessing the power of the diaspora in technology. So we have said connectivity, data storage, infrastructure. While the responsibility for the provision of the backbone for connectivity must be stirred by governments and capital-intensive investor publics, the interest of the diaspora must take advantage of the current situation to deliver products and services in the 3 areas of connectivity: data storage, provision, and infrastructure. And whatever way the diaspora enthusiasts will engage to provide utility in these three areas need to be constantly explored. Technical and commercial collaboration should yield connectivity, storage, and infrastructure application solutions that will be specifically targeted to the nature, and the aspirations of the African continent. They will include appropriate reckoning with the level of use, penetration, affordability, power supply availability, and those other peculiar issues that Africa is grappling with at this time. In this sense, the diaspora must work at establishing the continent's own versions of virtual meeting applications and storage devices. So harnessing the power of the diaspora in human resourcing, because that is serious. Leadership. One deficit that we have had in Africa is leadership. Leadership deficit. We need to identify how to skill and empower teaming African youth. I don't know what the experience is in Kenya, but the experience in Nigeria had been that you have a large number of young people who do not have the skills that they require. And the few that have the skills, they are running up and down the place because they just feel that they must have all the money in the world that they go. So we need to identify how to skill and empower them. Establish more technology parks and incubators. We were visiting a technology park here in Nairobi, and we were quite impressed by what we saw of young people doing different kinds of things. Then well-organized private sector technology and commercial collaborations. You know, those are things that we need to work on. Then networks. I remember the 30 years ago when we were doing all this internet thing in Nigeria, networks was uppermost in our thoughts. We were connecting needs to available resources. Networks should be established across the African continent. The bigger the network, the better the solutions to African problems. I will just, I'll stop there to say thank you very much. I believe that it will be more of interactions, our asking questions and responding, that will be able to make progress with this presentation. Thank you very much. God bless you.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Madam Ibukun Odushote. If it wasn't for people like you who are committed to public service, to giving back to community, to empowering women, to empowering the boy, child, and boy, girl, boy, girl, child, we wouldn't be where we are now. And particularly for the internet, because I do remember when I hosted that webinar of marking 25 years of internet arriving in Africa, you were the pillar to that process and many things that you've done. So we salute you. We salute you. We uphold you. No, it's really, these are things that, have to be said, and take the blessings. We are going to have an interaction as questions come in. Allow me now to introduce my good friend, Prince Lekan Fadina, to also make his own presentation. And the topic for today is cross-cutting issues. He has done, wears many hats. I don't know what topic to speak today, but Prince Fadina, please, you have the floor. Unmute, please. Unmute.
Good morning, everybody. Let me start first by thanking Rosemary for those words. As usual, I'm not surprised because she has mentioned that we've been too much involved in this in this process. And I know that with Rosemary, anything to do with royalty, Rosemary is my sister. She's my everything. She has a repository of that knowledge, and I salute you for being here. Let me also recognize the presence of both my brother and my sister, Mr. and Mrs. Ibukmo Dushote, well, for their contributions. And all I can say is that I'm not surprised with their Ibukmo's presentation, because she's not only experienced in that area, she has also brought to bear what you call the multidisciplinary approach. And I think she has raised a number of issues which has been agitating our minds. And I'm sure Rosemary will remember the same issue we are driving at in terms of leadership, in terms of the network, in terms of organized private sector. But I also like to recognize the young man, Jim Paul. I've been impressed by Jim Paul the first time she came on that platform. And Jim, let me also thank you for reminding me that I should be on this platform. I'm so happy that you are there, because you are the present and the future. And I'm so happy that we want to listen to you. My presentations today will follow this pattern. I'll start with an introduction. Then my topic is, of course, if I fail to address, I'm sure people who know me well will not be happy. So my presentation is looking at mobilizing African diaspora and private investment for low carbon or green projects in Africa. I'm looking at business of climate change. And I'm happy that when Mrs. Odutote was talking, she emphasized the point on the need for private sector. Today, my experience has shown, going around the world, being involved both as director of stock exchange, in my other outside, and even managing the process of knowledge in Africa and globally, I've realized one thing, that we must develop the private initiative, entrepreneurship must take its place. We must create that trust. We must create that environment. We must also bridge that worried leadership trust if we are going to do anything. If you want diaspora to bring in their investment, the enabling environment must be right. We must be able to get things together. We must be able to say there are prospects in what you want to do. And if there are no prospects, then why should I bring in my investment? No businessman is a Father Christmas, and we need to address that issue. So I would like to start with the introduction. Climate issue on Earth has been a very serious issue, because you have to look at the issue of the geological spread. You also have to look at the concept that has been over the years, look at the changing pattern of climate. The changing pattern of climate over the years has been that of fluctuation, has been that over the last 100 years, a lot of things have happened with the Earth climate that has been warming as a result of many activities, especially human activities of our indiscipline, and also certain aspects that also are not human. So part of it is the process that has often been called by the scientists as anthropogenic. And that means the climate change that it results from influence of human activity rather than natural causes. Also, research has told us abundantly that the global average temperature has increased, and the global has increased over the years. And that is why you have in cold countries, in a situation where they're expecting that they have winter, what you see something, a sort of a warm thing. And also, you have seen what has happened with burning of what you call the trees, the fire. Look at the incidents that happened in California in the last few years, where a lot of investment has been wasted. So these changes are expected to continue in the future unless we have a wide range of inputs that will assist us to address the human livelihood, the quality of air, the public health, the movement of people, overall human existence. Man has failed because God gave us a mandate: manage my resources very well. The question we should ask ourselves is, have we managed God's resources very well? I think one of the things we need to take away is that we must learn to marry God's resources. Having given this introduction, we need to look at the challenges and opportunities in climate change. Of course, Africa and other continents of the world, they are facing challenging costs on the economy, on our social, on agriculture, on our sustainable livelihood, on environmental life. And this concept of this business as usual must stop. We can no longer stop this. Only a few days ago, there was a beautiful documentary by David Attenborough that lasted for over 2 years, over 2 hours, and talk about how we have managed our environment. So we must address these challenges. Over the years, the Conference of Parties, otherwise known as the United Nations Conference on Climate Change, have taken steps to address this issue. And I'm happy that Mrs. Odushote is here because she has had the privilege of leading the Nigerian delegation to some of these conferences. And she has had the responsibility of not only looking at the policy, but also looking at the implementation of these policies. And I think what the Conference of Parties have done over the years is to help us in drawing to the focus the issue of sharing information, creating awareness, education, and knowledge to address the challenges and opportunities of climate change. What then should diaspora we should be looking at as a form of investment for diaspora? I think the focus on this piece needs to address how do we get the diaspora investment in the area of low carbon, or what is now called green economy. The idea of it is that there are funds. For example, one of the takeaway of the Conference of Parties that led in 2015 to the signing of the Paris Agreement, and what part of it has to do with the Green Fund. The idea of a Green Fund is to be able to fund projects that will reduce carbon dioxide, that will also make the environment more healthier than we think. So in this case, in my own view, we must consider the following. We must look at the risk sharing. Of course, we must address the issue of opportunity cost. Burning our forest, at the same time using wood to cook. We must also look at the risk as far as the human health is concerned. And unless you are alive, you cannot praise God. So health is one of the basic issues that we must address. The other aspect is we must look at the private sector investment behavior. What do the investor want? How does he want it? When, how, and what can we do? The investor wants a return, a substantial return on his investment. If the return is not there, he will not invest. Also, we must look at the type of technology that needs to be transferred. And that is why the point made by Mrs. Odushote in terms of looking at technology is very vital, because you cannot do anything now without technology. You can't do anything without knowledge. We have seen that what COVID-19 has taught us, apart from the introduction of virtual programs, it has taught us to identify our people. For example, look at what Pfizer vaccine is being pushed by a young Nigerian doctor who graduated less than 10 years ago. She gave an example of two young students who left university, again, about possibly 8 years, 10 years ago, and they are selling their ideas for almost $200 million. And there are a lot of other examples like that. The deputy director of disease control in New York happens to be a young Nigerian who qualified in the University of Ibadan less than 12 years ago. There are a lot of others in the world that are doing marvelously well. There was a story of a young doctor from Somalia, and a lot of them have done so much that we need to praise. So we must encourage this aspect. We need also to look at, we must understand the common practice of trade and investment roles. We must learn to do it well. There are no shortcuts to it. In business, there is the concept of trust. I developed my life on the basis of the confidence. That confidence is my word, is my bond. If somebody knows that you will do it well, he can trust you. He can go to bed and give you his money. And that also we need to appreciate. I would like to talk on a specific area, and that is what I call the global carbon market. The global carbon market is one example where we can put our money as diaspora. The global carbon market is an idea of selling carbon dioxide, and that means the emission as commodity, similar to commodity exchange, similar to stock exchange, similar to a basic commodity market, because in that case, emission has become a product. And the global carbon market is so huge that it is a way of emission reduction. If you do it well, we feel happier because it will also remove substantially the problem of the carbon dioxide. It encompasses almost about 2.2 billion tons of emission from 500 companies at about 12,000 installations. The story of carbon market started in Rio in 1992 when the Earth Summit was held, and it was realized that carbon market can be developed as one of just similar to commodity exchange. And one of the key features of the European system is that companies and governments can purchase offset from developing countries. So which means if you have what we are trying to say, of course, it is known that the developing countries, or what you call Annex II countries, they don't emit much. But in order for us not to get involved to learn from the experience of what others have done, then the idea is that we should now start to do it right from the beginning in reducing our carbon. What is the impact of carbon market? The impact of carbon market is that facilities that can generate power from clean sources such as wind or hydro are awarded permits that can be sold into the EU system, into the European carbon market system. The funds generated are used to finance projects. There are other types such as methane trapping and hydroflotation, what you call HFC reduction projects. This has generated great interest in financing market, and several billion euros have been raised to invest in these certified emission reduction projects. The World Bank and other institutions have seen great potentials in clean energy projects that can provide additional power generation capacity. There are also gains of greater emission reduction in the agriculture and forestry sectors, also in area of gas flaring and waste management technologies. What are then the type of projects that we can be looking at? The projects we can be looking at include projects in oil and gas, waste, renewable energy, energy generation, energy efficiency, carbon exchange, energy industry, cement, biofuel, afforestation, reforestation, and wind energy. There is also the need to create awareness to education and process of engagement to enable the investors to buy into the process and take the advantage of the mechanism for the economic and social development of Africa. Carbon trading provides opportunity for revenue generation by diversification of the economy through green technology and developing low carbon economy. We must therefore encourage the diasporans to invest in this sector. And that also raises the issue of bringing technology into Africa. Madam Odusoche emphasized the point of the remittances that they have brought. Let me also emphasize that so much can be brought apart from that. If you take knowledge, if you get one African or one diaspora to bring in knowledge to address a problem of health or address a problem of creating jobs, you'll be surprised what we get out of it. There is therefore the need for us to appreciate that we must collaborate with each other. The diaspora must see themselves as part of the system. They must see themselves, Africa is their home. And as much as the certain circumstances took them out of Africa, you can never forget your source. And I think it's one area that we need to look at. We must also encourage the diaspora to invest in this sector, especially now that African countries are among those people who sign an agreement under with the United Nations under the Paris Agreement to reduce their emissions. So, which means we must start to develop investment in green projects. And finally, I would like to submit that we must capitalize on what the new administration in America is trying to do. The administration in America has appointed the former presidential candidate in America to be their representative at the UN UNFC.
John Kerry.
John Kerry, and that is a significant thing because John Kerry is, was for those who are familiar with him, very calm, very cool, very intelligent, and one of those people who can drive the process. And I believe that alone can lead to America playing a significant role and contributing towards low carbon world. There are a lot of opportunities. We must again go back to a point made by Mrs. Odusoche on the issue of leadership. The leadership must be right. Also, the people must be well educated. We must carry the people along. They must understand the language. The language of investment is not the same language on the road. The language of creating wealth to some other people has different interpretation. And like she said, young people today are looking for shortcuts. They are not ready to wait. It has to be now, now, now. It is more or less you put your food in the oven and you want it immediately. You are not ready to cook. The question of cooking is not there. So we must realize that investment takes time. We must encourage our diaspora to invest in so many aspects, and there are so many areas that can be invested. So knowledge, investment, and a lot of other issues are connected. If you do it right, Africa will be the better for it. We must give the diaspora support. We must allow them to bring in their investment. We must allow them to bring their knowledge, because knowledge gain is knowledge beneficial to others. I thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Lieutenant Ferdinand. I mean, you just have outdone yourself because some of those nuggets of information that you've really shared with us are things that we can really take home and start implementing immediately. We are lucky in the US, we've gotten the new administration coming in, and you are very passionate on climate change as Madame Odushote is. And we are going to change the narrative now. We can do that within these 4 years where there's a new president-elect. Allow me, to bring in the young man speaking after two giants have spoken, Jean-Paul Tumusefo. But when I'm also introducing him, he must also feel that he's been put between two giants who are actually very passionate in handing over the baton to the youth. Over to you, Jean-Paul.
Thank you so much, Madam Rosemary. I would like to first the previous speakers, first Lekan and Ibuku. Thank you so much for an insightful presentation on climate change, the issue of leadership and technology, which is very needed for this situation. I also want to thank the organizers of this event for putting together their effort and everything to make this very event very successful. My presentation is not going to be long, but it's going to be how African youth can tap into the resources from the diaspora, and how the diaspora and African youth can be connected and collaborate to solving Africa's most challenging issues. African youth are the majority of the Africa's demographic, where we found that 60% of African population are below 25 years old. That's a large number, and it is expected to increase by 2035. However, that's also large part of the population faces a lot of major challenges, including quality education, unemployment, where you find most of these young people are underemployed, even if they are employed. So we've talked much about the issue of leadership, and it's very, very important to really talk about it and revisit on the kind of on type of leadership that is being used. Because speaking from the experience of young people, our leaders are creating a future that will be ours. So I would like to request that we need a new type of leadership that considers young people into the decision making. Because, as I say, the future that you're designing, it's ours to lead. That's why I just ask that there is a consultation from the young people to really know what do they need, to really know what the challenges are trying to solve. Because most of the time we've found that our leaders enact solutions or policies, and the people at the bottom are the ones who are going to implement, but they were not consulted to really provide the problem or explain clear the problem they are having. So I do think that's really important that our leaders, our elder generation need to think about it and also involve us on the discussion. And I want to thank for the invitation on this platform to really anchor and raise voices for the young people. My experience is that I've been working in the agricultural sector, where I work with a youth-led social enterprise called Agricultural Growth Network, where we encourage youth to join agriculture and also harness the power of technology to solve most of the issues that farmers and agriculture at large faces. Agriculture is the large employing sector, but if you look at it, the average age of a farmer is 60. years old. There is few young people who are involved into agriculture, and they are the majority of the population. And to that point, we've seen how COVID-19 has affected every sector, even the agriculture. Even before COVID-19 came, agriculture was facing major challenges. We've seen locusts in East Africa. There has been floods, several issues that has been affecting the agriculture sector, which holds the livelihood of many vulnerable populations. So the reason why I brought this topic for the discussion is to really think about, as Madam Ibuku have talked about technology, and others have talked about investment. How can we harness the power of technology to solve the issues that are present into the agriculture, and also generate or infuse investment into young Africans' innovation into agriculture? The other thing I want to share is that the diaspora is very rich in many resources other than the investment, the remittances that they send back to Africa. They are also rich in skills and expertise. How can young people on the continent collaborate with the diaspora in order to exchange or share skills and expertise? Speaking of the skills, many young people do not have access to quality education. With the rise in technology, automation and other cutting-edge technologies are going to take over major jobs on the job market. How can we prepare our young people to be prepared for the future of work? So I wanted to rethink about it, and also bring together ideas and also find solutions together, and then establish a collaborative effort between the young people on the continent and also the diaspora outside of Africa. The last thing I want to talk about is about action. There has been a lot of discussions, a lot of papers. We've been talking about the issues that Africa have, but we have less actions. This is the time that we see actions. We see our leaders acting. We see everything moving. We act quicker, because you look at the rest of the world, they're ahead of us in everything. And even if we whatever in whatever sector it is, even if in technology, we still lags behind, because we have less actions. We act less. We just talk. So I want to really request to our leaders to really take the time to put into actions and start solving the issues, stop the talk, and then start the action. Thank you so much. I'm looking forward for the conversation and also.
Thank you so much, Jean-Paul Tumosifu, because what I like about your presentation, it also has questions in between. And, while you're asking the audience, we also have two powerful speakers right next to you to be able to have this conversation. I want to bring in Madame Dushote. One of the things that I noted, she talked of data storage, the development of infrastructure, cloud computing. My pet project has always been the empowerment of women. And I remember when we had the webinar, that was one of the questions that, I I even asked you, and I would like to bring it again. In this area, women have not been heavily involved. I just want to know now that you are going into your pet projects, some of the other things that you're doing for young women and empowering women overall. Madam Odushote.
I want to thank you very much, Rosemary. Thank you. When I came in the other time, I couldn't even do the protocols because I've been in all kinds of things. I'm just managing my health, but I'm glad to be here, and it's an opportunity to also be able to share what we said. Hello. Okay. So talking about women, especially when it comes to issues of technology, issues of data management, we still have a long way to go, very long way to go. But I believe with people like you, Rosemary, with the few things that we are doing, we'll be moving up in the areas of empowering the women. We have observed that when you invest in the women, you get a multiplicity of results rather than investing in just any other person. Concerted women, dedicated women, once they have the empowerment, they pursue whatever the issues are and they get results. I think for us in Africa, we still have to pay a lot more attention to the women, to getting results through women. You know, our cultures have different kinds of things that hold the women down. So that tends to affect us in many ways. There are some places that women can't speak at all. There are some things that women can't do. Once you say you want to study this, they say, oh, but you're a woman, are you a man? You know? So that kind of an attitude has affected us over the years. But we are gradually getting out of it and beginning to understand the power that we have in the women who are properly aligned to doing whatever it is that they want to do. I know that when we started the internet things in Nigeria, Prince Lekon Fadina, our big brother that is here, he played significant role. He gave me all the support in the world that you can get. We fought battles and he was always there. So what we are saying is that we need the leadership of this kind of people that would stand right behind the women and be able to say that, yes, these women can achieve this purpose and we support them. We give them all that they require. He gave us resources. He connected us with some groups and different kinds of people. And today we can say that at least the team that did the work at that initial stage, we're all proud of him, and we're also proud that we were able to achieve the much that we can. So what am I saying? That especially our diaspora, that they would see the need for support for women. They will see the need for encouraging and skilling the women so that we can get the best of results out of them. Thank you, Rosemary.
Thank you, Madam Odushote. Let me turn to Prince Fadina, our brother. You talked of the Green Fund. And the Green Fund that came out, I believe, out of the Paris Agreement. has Africa taken this seriously? And of course, it may go back to Madame Odushote, because I understand now in her present career, she's looking at those possibilities. But you'll talk about that when I come to you. Prince Ferdinand. Put the mic on.
Sorry, before I answer your question on the Green Fund, please permit me to say something about the Women Initiative. I'm a very strong believer in it. And
thank you.
Mrs. Odushote has raised fundamental issues. I would like to challenge him. And in challenging him, I'm also challenging Joy, who is president of African Women in Europe. And I'm also challenging Rosemary. One of the takeaway of this program must be, how do we move the process of women forward? We have developed a process, what is called Women and Development Initiative. And we are looking at a number of areas. And I'm happy that Mrs. Odushote mentioned what she said. I would like to tell her that we have been able to get Mrs. Ike Mokede, who was president of National Council of Women Society in Nigeria many, many years ago. And his son is playing a critical role in economic. In fact, his son was the first managing director of Access Bank. I understand Access Bank is now the largest bank in Kenya. So I'm throwing it back both to you, Rosemary, both to you, Ibukun, and also to Joy. Take it from me. So that's one challenge. And I would like also to thank Mrs. Ibukun Odushote for her sentiment. I know, in fact, when she started talking, and of course I saw the husband, I said to myself that did they plan it that because of COVID-19, I wouldn't come to Kenya so that they can pay for all the expenses of my staying, and then I can use my elderly, the elderly thing, and also the royal prerogative, which I know they will do. So on a more serious note, I think the issue you have raised is very pertinent. The challenge is for us. The green class, some other countries have benefited. In fact, Nigeria has gone through another way. Nigeria is the first country in Africa to raise a green fund. And I believe at the time that this was done, Mrs. Odushote was the permanent secretary in the Ministry of Environment. I happen to be one of those people who work extensively in the background of it. So to answer your question, I think part of it also has to do with what I call, I hate to use the word, but please permit me to use it, what I call the government inertia. And what do I mean by that? You cannot talk, you see, there is a difference between private sector concept of looking at things and also government. That fund is government. When I say government, it was the negotiation of climate change fund, which with all humility, I thank God and people like Odushote and others for the opportunity to support all the efforts that some of us made. I happen to be one of the key negotiators for Africa on this thing. And it hurts me that we have not benefited enough from that fund. But some African countries have benefited. Nigeria has shown that there is a capability to get it done. So what we need to do is now to start to see how we can collaborate, how we can work together. And I believe that is the challenge we have. And I also will suggest to Mrs. Odushote that one of the things that we need to start looking at is how do we look at different entry points and also benefit from others. Because one advantage we have is that we are talking about technology. We are talking about knowledge. We are talking about innovation. These are the process that drive development. And if these are the art of development, then we are there. And like Jean Paul mentioned, today we are talking about smart agriculture. What does that mean? It simply means that we need to protect what God has given us, at the same time use technology to develop agriculture. We cannot continue. Africa has a market of 1.2 billion. Are we going to allow one person? I don't want to be mentioning something because I'm on a global scene. We're going to have somebody who just come out of nowhere, and before you realize it, they set up a plant in one of the smallest countries in Africa. And of course, since it's one market, a market of 1.2 billion, they take it. So I believe that the challenge to us, for example, Nigeria has 1/6 of Africa market. Yesterday, it was announced that Nigeria's population is 206. 206 to 1.2 billion is about 1/6 or more of that. So in terms of driving this process, the question of leadership comes in again. But that leadership, we cannot leave it to government. That's my point. But when you talk about government are individuals. And it depends on the perspective of that government at that time, of that man, and his interest, his motive. If it's somebody who is just interested in money, then he gets the money. But how many people realize that when you pass through a process, you leave a name, you leave a mark? And to me, those are the challenges. So the answer to your question is yes, some countries have benefited. I don't want to mention them, but I know them. And there are still opportunity to get them. But we can only do that by encouraging our own Africans. And that is why the diaspora must come in. We must all work together. You see, the idea of master and servant is gone for good. It's collaboration. It's partnering. It's what you have. And that is why I mentioned when I was talking about the issue of women. Women were wasting so much resources. Almost 50% of what will have contributed to GDP are not being utilized because of the ego of man, and then we allow this to happen. But we must have people, the process of advocacy, the process of creating awareness, the process of standing up. So at the end of the day, it's a question of the message and the messenger, the car and the drivers. So the ball is in our court. All of us must work together to get Africa to benefit from. And that also brings me to my paper. If we can get it right, we can create that market, because we are now looking at the concept of managing natural resources. People are talking and moving from ego to eco. So that, in my view, is what we need to do. And the funds are there. It's for us to find an appropriate opportunity by government creating the enabling environment, by we doing an extra job to make sure 2 + 2 is 5. And that is what we call the synergy. Thank you.
Thank you so much. I really have to excuse Madam Odushote. I could see that you are either not feeling too well, but just a parting shot, if you have a last message that you need to share, please do so before you meet with your doctor.
Okay. Sorry, I didn't hear you. Rosemary, could you?
No, I was just saying the last message that you would like to give to the audience before you leave.
Okay. We're talking about cross-cutting issues, and
yes,
we have talked a bit about the climate change. It is of utmost importance that the diaspora pays attention to climate change issues and the investments that is in climate change now. The investments that enables us to be able to get what is our right. Because all of a sudden we discover that it is not just benefits, it's our right in certain things for us to be able to get what belongs to us as Africans. So our people in diaspora would need to spend a lot more time to understand what they are able to do, they're able to attract into the various countries all over the world. Then secondly, there's always this emphasis on the use of technology. I remember that some years ago, about 30 years ago, 20-something years ago, when all these internet things were on, I remember telling somebody at a lecture, I gave a lecture at Computer Society, and I raised up a complimentary card. And I said the time is coming when this complimentary card will be incomplete without an email address.
Yeah.
That the PO box will be useless to you at some point, because all that you need will be something at something.com or dot whatever. Some people laughed, some people felt that, what were you talking about? But I can tell you, it didn't take 3 years after that outing that everybody started looking for email addresses. So, and when we started talking about technology again, that you don't have to be in all meetings, the times I told some of our young people that we are going to be having weddings online. They couldn't believe it. But we have had weddings online. Wives have been released the bride has been released to the husband online. The father had been in Nigeria. The wedding took place in England. But because of COVID-19, of course, they cannot go in there. So I just want to say, there's so much to do. There's so much to say, but I'm sorry. My doctor has come in now, so I have to be off this platform. Please forgive me, but it's very important that I see the doctor.
It's well, health.
Thank you. Thank you.
Rosemary.
No, your health is very important, and we appreciate all you've done for us. Thank you so much, Madam Odushote. Prince, did you want to say something?
Yes, I just wanted to re-echo the point which Mrs. Odushote made. I think it's a valid point. In actual fact, she made it. She created a platform over the years, for I think in the last 12 years or more, where youths will get together in order to teach them on IT and so on. And also the point she made on the issue of the mailing list. I mean, she pioneered that aspect. And of course, like she said in her presentation, although it looks embarrassment, but that embarrassment, in my view, happens to be positive, because these are things that you make. And also it teaches us one thing, that when you are doing certain things, you don't know the implications, you don't know the benefit of what you are doing until the results come out. So basically, in addressing let me also touch on that cross-cutting. Climate change is a cross-cutting issue. It affects our health, it affects our life, it affects our sustainable livelihood, it affects our agriculture, and we can see it. Look at what is happening. In some areas where you think you will see, look at the fluctuations in our weather. Areas that you expect that will be cold will be warm. Areas that you expect will be warm will be cold. So what has that taught us? It has taught us that we must prepare. That is one philosophy that I was taught in what I always in my days at the Bible college, that you must get yourself ready. Because the issue on the ground is that if tomorrow God takes you away, what can be said about you? And that is why our responsibility is not to leave things for tomorrow. Let us achieve something now. And that is why, if you remember, anytime we meet, my position on this matter is I'm only here to lay foundation. Once the foundation is laid, people like John Peel, we build. Look at the story of Rwanda. Yeah. For those, I have been there. When I entered that gallery where people are buried, it has its negative, it has its positive. experience. Negative, yes, people are dying. Positive, please, can we go back to what has happened? So those are challenges that we must face. And few days ago, Ghana had an election. Oh, the result was this and so on and so forth. But because of what Rawlings did, it may be a negative thing, but it has resulted in positive. So we need to address the mind that climate change is a cross-cutting issue and all of us must accept it. And in accepting it, we must all work together. Those are my comments on that issue.
Thank you. Thank you. Jean-Paul, I just wanted to touch on some of the issues that you brought up and your interest in going into agriculture and smart agriculture and things like that. Not many young people really want to go in that area. People, as Prince Fadina was saying, people want quick jobs where they can make money very quickly, and they don't want to go through the whole process of this, that, or dating themselves. What was it? Your foundation? Is it your parents? What motivated you to go in the area that you did go?
Thank you so much. It all comes to the mindset change that President Khan talked about. But personally, what motivated me is growing up in a family of farmers, and I've been able to observe their experiences. And by observing, I mean, I've been able to see the challenges and difficulties, and they were facing in their everyday activities. But when I got to university, everything I studied was science and science related, and I mean, you find that youth are so very interested in these other areas or other areas apart from the agriculture, and I was sad that if youth are running away from the agriculture and they are the one who are the majority of the population, who will farm the food we eat, who will produce the food they will eat in the future. So that's what motivated me to really, I mean, think creatively and find ways that we can really motivate you to go into the agriculture. That's when we came up with a solution where we have an online learning platform where we teach young people farming practices for a short period. And then after that, at the end of the learning period, they are able to develop agribusiness projects. And once they are able to develop such projects, we help them to be connected to financing means. And financing is also another issue that demotivates young people from going into the agriculture, because they think there's less revenue, there's less money from the agriculture. But the truth is, agriculture has agriculture has a lot of money, but we are just blinded from seeing the opportunity from the agriculture. So I must conclude that it all comes to changing the mindset and also bringing collaborative effort to really motivate our young people going these overlooked sectors. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you very much. What message would you like to tell the youth as a youth yourself?
The message I would like to tell the youth is simply stand up and design the future that you want to live. It's your responsibility, and no one will help you if you don't reach out. So you need to step up, show people that you can, and they will be able to support and be behind you. And the future is bright, but you need you to act fast and quick. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Prince Lekan, if you're still there, I have comments that have come in, some of the people that you challenged, one of them being Joy, who's in charge of working very closely, with the African women in Europe. Yes, tell us, Prince Lekan, how do we move forward? Give us the space and we'll show you great results. This has been proven here in Europe. Women are doing very well. And we don't need to focus on government. Some of the issues can be resolved at the individual level.
What?
So that is also throwing back to you, and Jean-Paul, there's a message here. Jean-Paul is so true. Youth are going into agriculture. African women in Europe, we want to work with you. Reach out to us. So please, Jean-Paul, there you have it. The whole of Europe, African women based in Europe, would like to connect with all of you. And I think let's take it to the next level. Let's move away as, from talk, and take action. Prince Lekan, your final words as we wrap up.
My final word is clear. I started by talking about women and development. Since my origin, I come in from a royal background, and we can deal with men. But you women, we respect you. After all, traditionally, you are the only one we prostrate for. So those men, we can take care of them. So I throw it back to you. I'm challenging you, and I repeat. And luckily, Ibukun has given us a case study when she started. I didn't say it. He mentioned the role. You see, let me also tell you, you must be blunt, you must be frank, you must step on toes. As a young man, I pioneered the first stock market for small, medium enterprises in Africa. In 2002, I was in South Africa when a professor made a presentation, and a Liberian who married a Nigerian foreign minister, Mrs. Oprah Benson, stood up and he said, ladies and gentlemen, I've listened to the presentation by this professor. There is somebody here that pioneer whatever that man is talking. That man is here, Prince Lekan. Look, I had to. What am I trying to say? History will remember you for what you do. Don't think of what you are going to gain now. Think of what you are leaving behind. So my answer to Joy is that women should stop, should pay less on pancaking their face, should pay less on using that expensive spray. Let us come together. Knowledge is expensive. But if you say education is expensive, try ignorance. And I'm sure you are not ready to try ignorance. Let me also emphasize that small countries in the world, they don't have the type of resources we have in Africa. But today, look at what they are doing. Singapore. India has moved from what it was to now. India and China are now competing in Southeast Asia. So the ball is in our court. The Holy Book says that if you work hard, I will bless your effort. You will get the reward of your effort. The Holy Book did not say that you will get prosperity. It is the so-called prosperity preachers that are talking about prosperity. If God can work for 6 days and rested for 1 day, then it is for you and I to go into that field, be pioneers. People may not respect us. We may not get the money, but history will have a place for us. Today, you cannot talk about Africa without Mandela. Ghana cannot talk about Ghana without Kwame Nkrumah. So today, you cannot talk about literature in Africa without Wole Soyinka. So the issues are clear. Let us be pioneers in this field. The reward may not be our own. It may be our children's children. But remember that when you see a big bush, if somebody has passed through that bush, no matter how long that man has passed, there will be a pathway. And that pathway will lead you to success. At least it will remove the challenges you are going to face. So I come back to you, take it from me, challenge me, I will challenge you. I'm ready to put things in practice. I can even we can organize within the next, the first quarter of next year. Let us do it as part of the takeaway of this process. And let people know that there is somebody, one joy here that is managing. There is Rosemary in America. There is Ibukun in Nigeria. And we can look for other people. There is so many people who can do it. At the end of the day, history will remember us for what we have done. History will be our friend. So my takeaway to everybody is that don't think of what your country or Africa will do for you. Think of what you can do for our continent. And our continent is now asking all of us, can we afford a market of 1.2 million, 2 billion to be served by a small company in one small corner in Africa, owned by people who are not Africans, and they are selling to African market. So the challenge is us, is back again to leadership. 2 weeks ago, at the webinar for the African free trade, the junior minister for trade in Ghana said, as of today, there are 7 automobile plants in Ghana. He mentioned Volkswagen, he mentioned some other things. What do they want to do? They want to assemble cars in Ghana to be sold in 1.2 billion market of Africa. Why can't we encourage African businessmen to work together, to team together, to trust each other, and realize that it is better for you to have a smaller part of a growing cake than to have a bigger part of a shrinking cake. That is the challenge you have to face. That is the challenge Rosemary, Joy, Ibukun, myself, and others have to face. If we do it, history will remember us. People like Jane Paul will say to us, we tried our best. And that brings me back again to Jean. Young man, the sky is the limit. But please remember, it takes a woman over 9 months to have a baby, because it's only 9 months that it will be in her tummy. A process can happen many years before it gets to her tummy. And when that baby is delivered, I can tell you from experience, that woman will not think of the pains that she has gone through in those periods. The first question she will say, where is my baby? And if you make an attempt either to do anything to that baby, you are in trouble. So it's a challenge to you. You go back to the world. Tell your young men, your colleagues, and say, history is not made in one day. History is his story. Be a part of that story. That is my challenge. That is my advice. And at the end of the day, we shall all have opportunity to tell the world that we have tried our best. I can tell you that we have put together a knowledge incubator in Nigeria. And the idea of that knowledge incubator is simple. Somebody like Rosemary can, through us, have a virtual office. We create a platform for her to say, whatever do you want? That is my challenge to you. Let us be open to each other. Let us work together, because in unity we stand. In separation, we are divided and will not be able to achieve much. I thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Prince Ferdinand. You've really summed it very, very well. The sky is the limit for these young people. We should encourage them. And like you said, some of these incubators, anytime an organization or a company is set up, there must be a certain percentage of an allocation for young people, and particularly on gender lines. I truly want to appreciate all of you for this segment. We need to make room for the next segment, which is still on cross-cutting issues. And we have all our other guests lined up. Prince Ferdinand, we cannot thank you enough. Jean-Paul Tumusifu, thank you. You are the leading lights from Rwanda to, all the various parts of the world that you've served in. And of course, our esteemed guest, Madame Odushote. I keep saying, if it wasn't for her, you know, sticking out there, making sure that we are at the table, we would not be talking of internet or even comfortably having this sort of discussions as we are doing. So I think let's move away from talk and move into action. I thank all of you for your participation today, and let's continue the discussion, both directly, informally, make connections. Jean-Paul, I can see you're already doing that with the African women in Europe. I wish you my very best on that.
Thank you so much.
Any final thoughts, Jean-Paul? Are you okay?
Yeah, thank
You're
you
good?
so much.
Thank you very much. And it's good night for me because it's 3 a.m. in New York, or 3:12, and you know, for you it's in the morning. But I stayed up because I wanted to make sure that I was sharing the podium with Prince Ferdinand and all of you.
Thank you so much. Good night.
Good night, good night, good night, good night.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Thank you very much. Yes, thank you so much, Prince. Yeah, bye.